and welcome back to the Map Battle League show. I'm your host Carp, and I'm joined today by LunacyEcho. How are you doing?
Hello. Hello, I'm doing well, and I'm so happy to be here. I'm super excited.
Well, it's great to have you on here. Uh, let's just jump straight into things. We've got week 5, and we've got the results for Division 1 this week. First up, we have M the Baseman and Skypro ending in a draw, although they did get wins on their opponent's maps, something we're actually seeing a fair bit of in the league.
Yeah, that's a little bit interesting. Although, like, both maps seem to be like pretty like wide maps, like pretty you know huge maps that you'd have to it might be tough to get like pinpoint a good pinpoint on if if you're not sure where you are, which might explain. Well, the intersection guesser one was pretty close, but the Asia one looks like what Scripero might have just missed a location there or something like that.
Probably. And Asia is big enough that it's basically a world map at that point.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Well, next there's Shumi Obuloso versus Sheldon Wong, and Sheldon gets a win, putting up a really great score in the Great Plains, and actually still a pretty big win in Lekki in Nigeria. So that's a pretty big upset for Shumi there.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially how like given how tough, especially like suburban Nigerian rounds can be. Pretty impressive.
Yeah, and I
Or
mean,
both of them, really.
yeah, I got destroyed by Shumi the previous week in with like urban Nigeria. So kind of surprised he didn't make it up there. But yeah, Sheldon picks up a win there. Next we have the first complete perfect score game of the season. Uh,
That's so exciting. Yeah.
yeah. Xander and Barry both perfect scores on Urban Lesotho and Florianopolis, and Xander just got the win on time in Florianopolis. I don't even know what the difference was, but yeah, that means I believe they had this similar distances as well.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. I'm honestly not surprised that it's these two because Xander and Barry are both incredibly good GeoGuessr players, as we've seen throughout the league. But yeah, it's super exciting to see the double draw. I hope we'll see more of them in the future.
Yeah, does bring it to sort of a point where it's all or nothing with these rounds, but that's the fun in this.
Yeah, maybe the time limit should be reduced for Division One.
Ooh. Yeah, that I believe that is something I suggested to Mr. Blue, but for the moment we're just running with 3 minutes everywhere, which I think uh might be a bit much for Division One. But I mean, I'm doing terribly, so I I might argue for a higher time limit. Uh,
Right, fair.
yeah. Well, the next up is with Paulinho versus Solar Sensei. Both of them picking up a win on their maps of choice, and both of them not doing too well at all on their opponents. So they really played to their strengths here.
Right, yeah, those are some good picks, and it really, I guess, shows the importance of like good practice, you know?
Mm.
Because like with that, you got Solo Sensei with like an 8,000 point lead over Paulinho in the weekly order, which also matters quite a bit, especially at this high division.
Yeah. Yeah. Paulinho did a lot worse on Solar Sensei's map than the other way around. So
Yeah.
Um, that does help Solar Sensei in the weekly rankings. Not so much for Paulinho there. Uh, Next, we've got Blinky versus Soviet Spy. Blinky picks up a win, probably something that most people would have expected. But yeah, Soviet Spy's map of choice uh, did not bode too well for him, stealing Jake's usual pick.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess like Extraordinary World is tough. Official Extraordinary World is also still really tough. I'm really impressed with Linky's high score there, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Uh, and I mean, he probably hasn't played it a whole lot in this competition until now because again, Jake keeps stealing it. But there you
Well, I
go.
think Jake takes uncommon, but like they have a lot of
Oh,
similarity, I
it's
imagine.
uncommon.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm getting confused. Okay. Yeah. Wait. Official. Yeah. Okay. He takes an official uncommon rule. I'm getting confused between the maps. Uh, Never mind then.
No, there's a lot of weird like official no moving maps out there that I would hate to get personally.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like I'm just amazed to see anyone do well on these.
Hmm. Next, you've got me up against Orpheus. Orpheus picks up a double perfect score and takes the win. Uh, I did not do
Yeah,
well at all on my map.
there really isn't. Yeah, there isn't much you can do against a double perfect score. But it looks like you held your own like really, really well, especially in Spain.
Yeah, yeah. I sort of hoped that Spain would be enough for a win, but no, Orpheus was just too good there. Um,
Yeah, Orpheus is a beast.
yep. And that ends. I mean, that continues my winless streak,
Oh
as
no.
we'll see. Um, but yeah, and then finally we've got Boxer picking up a win against Moist Flubber. Both of them getting perfect scores in San Marino, but Boxer wins on time. And actually a pretty close game in Americas, but Boxer still picks up a win there by 400 points.
Yeah, unfortunate. Again, Box is one of those juggernauts that, like, kind of like Orpheus, it's just hard to, make a dent in. So getting a perfect score in Americas is basically the most that Moist Fleur could have done in that situation.
Yeah, and that would still have been a draw. Uh, yeah, draw
Yeah.
and bonus point, but still. Um, yeah. As we'll see, that is going to propel Boxer to the top of the rankings with the win. Um, and yeah, now we're sort of starting to see a split open up between the people at the top and the bottom, uh, especially in this division.
Right, yeah, like it just is kind of crazy how much talent there is in this division. Like, I mean, yourself included too. There's
Hmm.
just like a lot of incredibly good players here, and it's really interesting to see how close things are at the top. Like just a few points separating first from honestly like the middle of the pack. Like 3 points separating first from fifth means that like just one win, could propel you to the top.
Yeah, and that's actually gone really well for Sheldon, who was actually I down in like eighth or seventh last week, so
Oh wow.
he's getting even closer to those playoff spots. Uh, which I mean, we're still like 7, 8 weeks away from the end, but it's still it still matters where you are right now. My hopes are pretty much gone at the bottom, as would
But I
be
mean, yeah,
true.
the bottom of the pack also seems really close, right? Like you
Yeah.
again, 3 points separating the bottom from like just like being safe in the middle.
Hmm. Yeah. I think for a lot of us at the bottom, we're basically playing to be safe at this point. Um, we kind of need miracles to find a way into playoff spots, especially given that Boxer, Paulinho, and Blinky have pretty much cemented their spots as we've seen their performance over the last few weeks.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's fair, but you never know what can happen,
yeah,
There's a
yeah.
lot of interesting maps out there.
Hmm. Sometimes we can try and throw a curveball at them and maybe unseat them. Uh,
Yeah, who knows?
yeah.
Especially with like various incidents such as the one that required, Scrippo to come in as like a backup.
Hmm.
There's yeah, like anything can happen.
Yeah, yeah. Well, as for the fixtures for week 6, we've got Paulinia going up against Shumi. Both of them, uh, obviously playing to their strengths. Paulinia going for Eastern Europe, which, as a Romanian could go in his favor. Shumi just going with the home advantage again with Nigeria.
Yeah, a couple of like generally home maps. Could be tough to say who could get the upper hand here.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, I'm gonna go for a draw on that map, on that
Hmm.
matchup. Yeah. Uh, Next up, we have Moist Flubber going with Civilization. I cannot speak. Civilization Alphabet D. Uh, I don't know how many towns there are that start with D, but
Feels like there are probably a lot.
yeah, at least a lot more common than like Q or X or
Right, yeah.
something.
So like Q and X are studyable, but T, that's just you just
Yeah.
gotta figure out where you are.
Hmm. Although now that I think about it, I can't think of a single town that starts with D. Actually, Toronto is there, and that's about it.
Yeah, if it's 5 Toronto locations, that's it.
Yeah. And his opponent and the basement going for the Netherlands. Uh, Home map again. Uh, I'd favor him on that one then.
Yeah, that's fair. Was this the week that had like very few USA maps? There was like a week with very few, and then there
Hmm.
was a week with like a million. Um,
I'm not sure. I guess we'll see. Over the video, we can count how many US maps show up.
yeah, that's fair. Just wondering how hard it would have
Hmm.
been for Moist Clover to get a home field advantage.
Yeah.
And I guess speaking of being hard to get a home field advantage,
Yeah, and I mean the US is big enough that like I don't know how much of a home field advantage you get unless the state is literally the one you're from.
yeah, fair.
Uh, yeah. Well, next up we've got Orpheus going up against Xander. Orpheus has gone for Ecuador, and Xander has gone for Botswana. None of those home maps, but I don't know if those are random picks or just countries that they're confident in.
Right, yeah, that might be a difficult one. Although Botswana was in the Reddit League, which I
Right.
believe Orpheus would have studied. Was Xander in Reddit League? I
Uh,
don't think so,
I
but
uh, it's escaping me, but I don't think he was actually in Reddit League.
right, yeah. So that might be a small advantage for Orpheus in Botswana there.
Yeah. And given how well Orpheus has been doing, I think I'd favor him for that match.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Next up, I'm going up against Scripero this week. I have Esmeraldas. I think that was like 15th on my list or something. Uh,
Pain.
yeah, and Scripero has gone for Japan.
Yeah,
Mm,
Japan.
yeah. Honestly, I don't hate Japan all that much. It's like once you figure out phone codes, you're already getting pretty close.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's fair. And like if you get really good at like being able to like, read county road signs or like province
mhm,
road signs and know what those say.
yeah.
I haven't gotten there yet, but I'm sure that there are people who are.
Yeah, and I mean it is one of those countries where like it helps if you know the script, but it isn't essential or as essential as it would be in like Thailand
True,
or
yeah, because of all the
something.
national roads.
Yeah, I honestly I don't know how Skypero, how good Skypero is at Japan, but I guess I'll find out. Um, next up we've got Boxer going up against Sheldon. Boxer is on Lakes of the World, and Sheldon has gone for Vietnam.
Interesting choice. Vietnam, I guess, is another one where I feel like it'd be hard to get a bearing, but if you can find a good sign with like the city name.
Yeah. It is also a long country, so just getting the wrong city would put you well down
Yeah,
in points.
absolutely. And it's much harder to do like a landscape guess like for Chile, for example.
Hmm. Yeah. Uh, I think on this one I might favor Boxer. I think he's played Vietnam in one of the previous rounds this season.
Uh
Or I might just be thinking of this match itself. Uh, but
yeah, and also like Boxa on a self-picked world map is a terrifying concept.
oh, it sure is. Next up we've got Soviet Spy going for Russia. Uh, if you want to call that a home field advantage, go for it. Um, uh, as a spy from there, I'm sure he knows it pretty well.
Absolutely, but you can't tell anyone or else that breaks the cover.
Oh, right, of course. Um, and then you've got Barry going for Lleida in Spain, which I don't actually know where that is, but Spanish cities are never easy, at least for me.
Yeah, honestly, just like any kind of city map where it's like hard to get a sense of like what streets you're on, that kind of thing. Like if the signage is good, then can be kind of helpful, but really if it's not, and I don't know how good the signage in Lleida is.
Mhm. It okay, it isn't Catalonia.
Makes
Uh,
sense.
yeah. Um, I mean, it's not Barcelona, which is probably good. It's slightly smaller, easier to find things, but
Hmm.
I guess we'll see. Um, and finally, we've got Blinky going for Livne in Ukraine. And he's
Interesting
got,
choice.
yeah. It does remind me of a terrible time I had with one Ukrainian city. Um, but we're not going to talk about that. Um,
Fair.
and his opponent is Ola Sensei going with southern U.S. cities.
Yeah,
Uh,
and again, as you were mentioning earlier, like just because it's a home field advantage doesn't necessarily mean it is a real advantage because it's the US.
yeah. I think southern U.S. does sort of help because it means, um, you know, if you know the differences between like sort of Alabama and Mississippi, and your opponent doesn't, then
Right, yeah.
you're in a good
Like,
spot.
really, the question is how much do we think Blinky can tell the difference between Mississippi and Alabama?
Yeah, I
Or
mean, he is at the top of the table, so I'd assume he can get a pretty good grasp of that.
yeah. But Solo Sensei's also a very good GeoGuessr player, you know?
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, we'll see how that turns out. I think Solo Sensei might have trouble in Rivne. Uh,
Yeah, who wouldn't other than Blinky?
yeah. What was, where was that choice on his list though?
I have no idea, but it gives me the vibe of a random choice. I'm not
Oh
100%
wait,
sure.
right. He started going for a random pick. I I forgot Mr. Blue
To
mentioned
give his opponents a chance.
that. Yeah, no, I think he decided to just go for random picks the rest of the season. Uh,
Fun.
yeah. Um, well, let's look at Division 2 now. And we start off with a win for TGB Madone against Trickter. Although both fairly low scoring maps.
Yeah,
I'd
both
say.
of those look like either no moving or
Oh,
NMPZ
yeah,
maps.
right.
Yeah.
Photospheres
Which is
and
interesting.
NPC work.
Yeah, and I was gonna say it's interesting because I associate Trickter with being like really really good at no moving slash NMPZ.
Hmm. Yeah, he's definitely been going for a lot of that, I guess. This just wasn't his week when it comes to
Yeah, might be just a little unlucky.
his maps.
It's so easy to be unlucky with
Hmm.
NMPZ, you know.
Yeah. But with the NMPC maps, it's gonna be a low score for him and a low spot on the weekly rankings, so we might have some trouble on that front.
Yeah, shame. Although if Trickster wants the no moving maps, then I feel like those are not going to go very fast.
That
So
is
maybe it
true.
won't matter.
Yeah. Next up, Pierre picks up a win against Danny Blondes. Fairly narrow wins, just about 1,000 points or so on both the maps.
Yeah,
Um,
that not much margin for error.
yeah. Um, it's just a straight win. Nothing uh too surprising, I'd say.
Yeah, and of course the lower scoring one being the no moving one.
Yeah, yeah. Um, next up, Diesel picks up a win against his fellow countryman Dryfat Punk. Picks up a perfect score in Toronto.
Oh,
And
there's another city starting with T.
oh, there you go. Yeah. And yeah, Dryfat Punk just 50 points off of the score needed for a bonus point. Uh,
That's so painful.
yeah. I do believe we have some closer ones later, but yeah.
Yeah. But yeah,
Um,
that official uncommon world score difference
mhm.
is just like Diesel's training is clearly paying off.
Yeah, and clearly Traffic Punk, maybe he didn't practice for it, or maybe he just gave up, knew he wasn't going to get a win there, and
Yeah.
just um
I was
didn't.
very much considering doing that when I had to play uncommon against Jake Lyons in my division, but
Ah, yeah, I mean,
yeah.
but the score does matter for your weekly order, so
Right. I do not blame Dryfox
um,
Punked, but that it is unfortunate that's gonna impact him quite a bit.
yeah. Um, Next up, Ollie picks up a win against Sotomo. They both get a perfect score in Singapore, which they both had for Reddit League. But
Hmm.
Ollie wins on time. Zotomo was also really close in East Asia, just 70 points off. So that would have netted him a bonus point as well, but you can only get one.
Right, right. Very close game.
Yeah. And unfortunately, Zotomo goes another week without a win uh, over here. Um,
Yeah. That
Next.
which is yeah. Oh, sorry, go.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it's a little painful, but I've been really impressed with how Zatoma's been doing in the division overall, especially since there's lots of great people in here as well. There's just like
Hmm.
incredibly talented people all throughout the league, really.
Yeah, yeah. Next up, Hexalt versus Verdok. Verdok gets a win with a perfect score in 5 cities of his choice, which I believe were like 4 French cities and 1 Italian one. Uh, but
Although for the French Derby,
yeah,
might not
yeah.
make.
Hexal did get close, within about 670 points and picks up a bonus point, but Japan did not sit too well for him.
Mm.
Wait, is Japan showing up? twice. Oh no, oh no,
I think it might be that, like, yeah, you're getting Japan the week after this one.
yeah, right, right. Well, uh, after this we have WTF versus Gabriel. Uh, to pick up a draw each. WTF getting really close to a perfect score in Serbia, but both of them picked up one in Oshawa, which is no surprise,
Nice, yeah.
really.
Right. Yeah, the smaller cities again seeming like they're better for getting draws, like Singapore.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean it's Oshawa is like the typical North American gridded city. You're gonna find your location
Yeah.
regardless.
Good for score though. Good for weekly order.
Oh yeah, for sure. And finally we have Brian picking up a win against Schluty, um, getting a perfect score on Civilization Alphabet. But Schluty's pick of Kukuta did not go too well for him. I'm guessing he just missed a location.
Yeah, that's right. It does seem like that, right?
Hmm.
And there's the curse of small cities, you know. If there's just one that you miss,
Yeah,
you're done for.
yeah, you're out. And yeah, he does pick up a bonus point with Civilization Alphabet, getting within 18 points. So that's a consolation prize for him.
Yeah, for sure.
Uh, and as the standings have turned out, Trichter, Dreifunkpunkt, and Danny Blonde all dropped into relegation spots with their losses. I think over here the table is generally a lot closer, which means there's a lot of movement with
Yeah,
just
this
the
is
same.
wild. I thought Division 1 was tight, but this is wild with just 3 points separating first place and 11th.
Yeah, that. I mean, you could literally get a win in 11th place and jump to the top of the table. It's exciting. Uh,
Right, right.
Unfortunately, Zerdoma and Schluty, no movement at the bottom of the table, and there is a sort of gap opening up. They've already got 3 points behind Dreifunkpunkt, so they've
Right,
got their
yeah.
work
But
cut out.
there is a lot of league left, but the longer it goes, the more of a gap they'll have to jump.
Yeah. Uh, well, as here are the fixtures for week 6. We've got Gabriel going up against Ollie. Gabriel's gone to the Canary Islands, and Ollie is going for. I wish Mr. Blue was here to pronounce this, but I think it's like Herr Krovas.
Sure.
Someone, he can let me know later. Um, I don't know if any of these were their picks, but that city is a small one, so you know,
Seems like it, yeah.
yeah,
It might win a science fiction prize.
yeah. But yeah, it could either go really well for Ollie or really badly, depending on whether he gets all the rounds or not.
Yeah, like we were talking about with small cities. Canary
Hmm.
Islands, there's a bit more of a discrepancy, but as long as you get which island you're on, hopefully that
Yeah, and
is enough.
I mean, if you find one uh sort of highway number, that immediately tells you which island you're on. So
Oh yeah, exactly.
yeah. Next up, you've got WTF going up against Dreifunkpunkt. WTF sort of going for the home advantage with the Balkans, but Dreifunkpunkt is going for an unusual world, and I'm not sure whether that's non-moving or something.
Interesting. Yeah, maybe Dryfuck was training this one instead of Uncommon World.
Yeah. This is NMBZ actually.
Ooh,
So
that's a
yeah.
rough pick.
Especially for WTF, if he's not good at NMBC, he has to
That's
get away
true
with
as well. Yeah,
Falcons.
yeah.
Um, Next up, we've got Hexalt versus Schluty. Hexalt going for Thailand. I, I think
Interesting. My condolences.
this kind of sucks because I just got assigned Thailand for like week 8 or something.
Oh
So
no.
yeah,
That's rough. I'm sorry.
and Schluty's on a volcanic world. Hopefully that goes better for him. But I'm sorry, he has to deal with Thailand.
Good luck with those area codes.
Oh yeah. I I actually don't know about those, so maybe I should brush up on those. Um, yeah. Next up, Zotoma going with Tokorozawa in Japan. I'm not sure where in the country that is, but it's a Japanese city. I'd favor Zotoma on that one.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And his opponent Medern is going to fire urban location in Germany. Uh, I haven't played a lot of German cities, but um,
Yeah, I guess for Germany, 5 locations is just 5 urban locations.
yeah, um, yeah. I honestly don't know which way that's going to go on the Germany map. Um,
Yeah, it could be tough to say.
mhm. Next up, you've got Danny Blunt versus Verda. Both of them going for home advantages. Danny Blunt has Italy, and Verdoc is going for urban France.
Yeah, this could be a tight one. Definitely would favor to predict a draw here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Although Verdoc did go for um an Italian city, didn't he? Uh,
Oh, was that Toronto?
no. Yeah, I believe he had the 5 cities of his choice and went for one Italian
Oh, I
city.
see. Okay.
Um,
So yeah, maybe Wardock was trying to prepare ahead of time,
yeah.
plan for the future.
Mhm. It was Venice, so I mean that's not particularly indicative of Italy as a whole. So maybe.
I mean, the rest of Italy isn't filled with canals.
Yeah. Um. Well, next up we've got Pierre going with Tunisia, and Trichter is on an NPC world yet again. Let's hope he
Yeah,
can.
classic pick.
Yeah, let's hope he can do a little better this week than last.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, and yeah, finally, we've got Brian going up against Diesel. I think Brian didn't know that he had to pick the countries, if I remember correctly, so he's just gone for all the American. I said American, all the
Yeah,
English.
all the American countries.
He's gone for all the English-speaking countries plus Iceland.
Interesting, yeah. That's not a bad selection, especially if
Mhm.
like I there can be a difference, I guess, if like English is your first language versus it being your second or third, although English being a very, very commonly spoken language in Germany as well, who knows
Yeah.
how much of an advantage that actually is.
Sri Lanka should be interesting though, especially if you don't know the script, which I don't imagine most people do.
Yeah, that could be tough.
hmm but yeah, that I think that's going to be end up becoming the decider uh, over that.
Yeah, I don't disagree. It can be hard to find leverage in Sri Lanka if you can't find a sign with like a city name on it, and there's all sorts of tiny cities and like suburbs that just aren't listed on the minimap.
Yeah. Um. Well, let's look at Division 3 now. First up, we've got Farban and Seoul for picking up draws. The results as you'd expect here. Although their scores on the opponent's maps aren't going to do too well for their weekly order.
Yeah, this is a pretty good example of like I think like just good picks. Like this is what the map battle league is.
Yeah. Um, I'm guessing Seoul just didn't get one round in Argentina, but Farban looked like didn't get
Yeah.
three of them. So he does pick up the win there, and it's a draw overall. Next up, you picked up a draw against the 59 Soundbite.
Yeah, absolutely. I was really scared of this one because not only is 59 Soundbite from Scotland, but he also told me that he used to live in Australia.
Yeah.
But luckily he didn't used to live in Tasmania, and the seeds was like relatively tough with a few like ones that were pretty out there and like hard to find signage for. So yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, you were just 20 points off of getting a bonus point in Scotland.
Yeah, that was a little bit painful. There were so many places where I was like, I'm just gonna like let it go and like not search the rest of Scotland, and I should have. But yeah,
Yeah.
I won't dwell on it too much. But yeah, no.
Yeah. Well,
Soundbite's a great player, and I'm honestly happy to draw that match, given how
yeah.
scared I was going in.
Yeah, you had a curveball thrown at you right before the week started, so there you go. Next up, you've got Lucky picking up a win against Ottawa. Perfect score in Santiago, which I guess was good for Formula G, and
Oh yeah, true.
and he got close in Southern Europe, but Ottawa just didn't do well on either. So Um, yeah, I'd say that was an
Right,
easy
yeah.
win.
Right. Like Plucky, honestly, I feel like should basically be in Division One. But he's been like dominating this bracket. Uh, but honestly, I'm like impressed that Ottawa managed to like put up that kind of a fight in Southern Europe,
Yeah.
which can be pretty tough to get a bearing in.
hmm especially in the Balkans, I'd
Right.
say. Um, well, next up we've got Laban Greb picking up a win against Seppo. Um, again, perfect score on the urban map here in Barcelona. Um, and yeah, a guessable world. I don't know anything about that map, but clearly it favored Laban Greb.
Yeah, I think it might be like a map that is about like various country metas or something like that. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever I've played it, I've always been like, sure, maybe this is guessable, but not by me. So, yeah, happy to see Laban Greb pick up the win here, given that Laban Greb is my Formula G teammate, and hopefully this,
Right.
inspires him to do better. But yeah, pretty decisive win against
Mhm.
Seppo, unfortunately,
Yeah,
for Seppo. Yeah.
and he was actually my teammate last season as well. So
Oh, cool. Yeah.
yeah,
I've taken your spot.
yep. Um, yeah. Next up, you've got Armand picking up a win against Altenburg. Uh, perfect score on the Channel Islands this time, which there was a whole argument about whether it is the uh, one like off of the coast of France or the ones off of the coast of California.
Yeah.
That was an
Um, I don't
interesting
know. I've
discussion.
never gotten a location in the Channel Islands off the coast of California that wasn't in an uncommon world. Uh,
Yeah, I don't think
but
it
yeah,
actually
like
has coverage.
I think Santa Catalina has like some like weird coverage with like
Uh,
this random black car that goes into the wilderness or something, but that's about
oh,
it.
okay. Yeah, I mean, I've never had a run around there. But yeah,
And may you never.
yeah. Um, yeah. So I'd say that was a pretty easy win for Armand, even if
Yeah,
Greek Islands.
Armand's also quite a beast in the league.
Yeah. Um, yeah, but in Greek Islands, I don't think that could have gone well for either of them.
Oh, true. Yeah, that's in one of those maps that to me feels like a death sentence, along with like I don't know, rural Thailand. You know.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Greek Islands is basically just half of Greece, so um,
Yeah,
and I'm pretty sure they take up more just area generally than the entirety of Greece, so or like mainland Greece.
I'd believe it. Yeah.
Yeah. Next up, we've got Max picking up a win against Teaser. Um, yeah, Teaser was pretty close in the second cities map, picking up a bonus point there, but Norway just couldn't measure up to Max there.
Yeah, hard to play against I guess a Nordic player
Yeah.
in Norway.
Yeah. So I think he'll be happy with the bonus point, although maybe if he just got the perfect score, he would have won on time or something. I don't know.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah. And finally, you've got Jake picking up the win against Nakira on his map of choice in Official Uncommon World, but it was actually pretty close this time.
Yeah, it's getting closer and closer, people especially in this division are starting to catch on to Jake's trick.
Yeah, and I think this is actually the last week where he gets the map, as we'll see in a bit.
Ooh.
Um, or I think he might get it for like another week. I don't know. Um, uh,
Yeah, his reign of terror may soon end.
uh, but yeah, as we'll see, um, Jake and Armand's wins keep them at the top of the table, and Lucky's moves him just a spot closer to them. I think over here we're seeing it's actually pretty close in the top half, I'd say.
Yeah, I get. Yeah, I think the top seven and the bottom seven, there's like a bit of a division, and it's feels like it might widen depending on how the rest of the season goes.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Unfortunately, Ottawa, even though he has a win on his record, is all the way down in the relegation spot. So, uh,
Yeah, unfortunate.
yeah, we do actually see Jake and Armand with massive score differences, especially compared to the opponents there. I know Jake with Jake's non-moving maps, it will.
Right, yeah. I'm actually very surprised to see that Armon's score difference is higher than Jake's. But
Yeah.
then again, the 525Ks might have something to do with it too.
Oh yeah. But yeah, I think that is the highest number of 25Ks we've got in the league as a whole. Although I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, Philly has been doing really well at those. And well, here are the fixtures for week 6. We have Ottawa going up against Laban Greb. Ottawa's basically on an urban world. And Laban Greb also going for a world map with a balanced world.
Yeah, so that'd definitely be a really interesting matchup with just two general world maps. Not
Yeah.
much you can do to prep for that.
hmm Um, yeah, and I don't even know which way this could go. Yeah, I guess we'll see. Um, Next up, you've got Seoul versus Altenburg. Both of them going for maps in sort of a similar region. You've got Altenburg going with Turkey and Seoul also going with the Caucasus. Caucasus, yeah.
Oh, interesting. Is that just like would
Uh,
that just essentially be like the southern part of Russia in that region,
Um,
or does it include like unofficial coverage from like the Caucasus countries, or
I
just Russia?
I I'm sure it's just southern Russia because even if the map includes unofficial coverage, we wouldn't pick it for the map.
Oh, got it. Makes sense.
So it's just southern Russia, which is a pretty interesting region though. So, um,
Yeah, and also like pretty small if you're not including like Azerbaijan and Armenia and Georgia.
yeah. Um, it is also pretty distinctive because you've got like deserts and mountains and like just plains. So, um, yeah,
Yeah, definitely landscapeable. But then
definitely.
again, so is Turkey
hmm
to some degree.
Yeah, definitely one of the more interesting matches this week. Uh, but yeah, next up we've got Max going up against you. Both of you have gone for urban maps. Uh,
Yeah, I think Max's VNTN one was a random pick. Um, which I was not super happy about, but hopefully Max wasn't super happy about it either.
yeah. I think Vientiane isn't too bad actually compared to some of the other sort of cities in that area.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean I don't doubt it.
yeah. But you've gone for 5 urban locations in Taiwan, which I'd say is a lot easier than that.
I would agree, especially given like how like good the signage in Taiwan is about
Yeah.
like different counties. That plus the fact that I've spent quite a bit of time in Taiwan means that like I'm hoping here for the advantage.
Yeah. Um, well, next up we've got Faraban going for German-speaking Belgium. Uh,
Interesting. That's a tiny region, right? That's just like on the
yeah,
edge of Belgium.
yeah, it's like the easternmost bit of Wallonia, and I think that's it.
Yeah.
Uh, and okay, Jake does get an official uncommon world for one more week.
Hmm. But Faraban's quite a skilled opponent, you know?
Yeah. Um, Fairbairn is also pretty high on the table, so I
Right.
I might say this will going to end in a draw. I don't know how Jake would measure up in Belgium, but I definitely favor Fairbairn on that one.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Um, yeah. Next up, you've got Nakiro going up against Seppo. Again, two sort of world maps here. Nakiro's on a diverse AI world, and Seppo is on
Yeah.
Urban Guesser.
Right. I'm honestly unsure what the difference is between like Urban Guesser and like Ottawa's World Urban Only or like the World Cities. There's like so many of these.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah.
Uh,
But again, like this is going to be one that's I guess difficult to train for other than just getting good at what you already know.
yep. Um, with Urban Guesser especially, like it really you need to be good at pinpointing in the city, and you have to figure out what city you're in really quick, and that's basically all it comes down to, really.
Yeah, exactly. You know, got to find a sign with the city name on it or something along those lines, or
Mhm.
else you're toast.
Yeah. Next up, Plucky is going for the Schengen area, which is basically Europe minus
Yeah, pretty
a
huge.
few. Um, yeah. And as opponent, Teaser is going for 5 urban locations in Sri Lanka.
That's interesting because like in my experience, in my admittedly limited experience, I feel like urban locations in Sri Lanka are actually harder than like the
Oh yeah,
semi-rural ones. Yeah.
for sure. I feel like that's the case in a lot of countries actually. just because
Mm.
the cities are very dense and it's hard to figure out exactly what little alley you're on.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but
So I
yeah,
mean, good luck to Teaser with that one. You know,
mhm,
these are two like people who are very high on the leaderboard. So
yeah,
interested to see how this goes.
could go anyway. Uh, and finally, we have Armand going for the Rhine River, and the fifth man soundbite going for City Halls of the World. I've always wanted to play one of these sort of thematic maps, but it comes down to a similar thing as Urban Guesser, I'd say.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like you'd probably have to be like a decently sized city to have a city hall. Yeah, it just seems like basically a world map. But Armon
Hmm.
might have the home field advantage on the Rhine,
Yeah.
maybe,
Um.
or kind of maybe.
Uh. I don't
It's
think the Rhine
yeah.
flows to France, does it? But like,
Yeah, I'm thinking of the wrong river.
the
But it's
Rhone.
closer to France than it is to Scotland. I know that.
That yeah, that is true. Um. But yeah, those are the fixtures for week 6, and let's move on to Division 4, where we have Clemens picking up a draw against Ottawa. Not Ottawa, Ardboka. We keep doing this today. But yeah, Clemens picks up a perfect score on his own map. No surprise there.
Of
Uh,
course, yeah.
and Ardboka does pick up a win on the Geodetective World. I'm guessing Clemens just got one less round than Ardboka did.
Yeah, or Boga's just a better detective.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. Next you've got Pestetli and Hugo picking up a draw each. They're on their home maps. They pick up perfect scores.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's another like yeah, great map picking on their parts.
yeah. Although Hugo did get pretty close in Basel.
That's true, yeah.
Um.
But yeah, these are both home maps, I think. Is Pastetli actually from Liechtenstein?
No, he's from Switzerland.
Okay.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. Next up, Hidikmi and Sepkius again, just a draw. They win on their home maps, or at least the maps that they picked. Uh, I'm sure Mississippi isn't Hidikmi's home map.
Yeah. Yeah. And Oh, the Places You'll Go also doesn't seem very localized.
Yeah. I, I said this last week, and I'll say it again. I still have no idea what that map is.
Yeah, same. It keeps popping up.
Yeah. We've got a few of these sort of cryptic maps in there. I think one of the maps in the previous weeks was Wowie or something.
Huh? Oh,
Exactly.
okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Next,
whatever it is, Sebcurious clearly knows what to do in the
yeah,
map.
yeah.
So, yeah.
Next you have Calamity picking up a win against Renata. Um, both rather low scoring games, I'd say, but Renata just 15 points off of picking up a bonus
Yeah,
point.
that's so painful.
Mm.
And I remember Calamity saying in the Discord server at one point that Bolivia is his favorite country to play or something
Mm.
like that, which like really surprised me, but clearly it's working for him, you know?
Yeah, I mean that's definitely not one of the highest scores we'll see, but it does get him a fairly decisive win there.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I mean, for the points, you don't need to be good. You need to be just better than other people.
yep. Uh, but yeah, I think we are sort of seeing these. We're gonna see this, like, people get closer and closer to missing bonus points and things.
Mm,
Um, yeah. Next up, we've got Edward losing out to Michael. Both of them did draw in, I want to say, Santi in Greece. Uh, but I think Michael was faster on time there, and
makes sense, yeah.
yeah, Michael had a home field advantage with Ireland. So um,
Yeah, naturally. Yeah. It's the battle of Geo Squad versus GeoGuessr.
yeah, yeah. Um, yeah. Next up, you've got Bitlympics versus Paranoid Android. Both of them picking up wins on the opponent's map.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
always fun when that happens.
yeah. I'm guessing Bitlympics had some rounds in Prussia that he didn't take too well to. but it was closer in Bergenland.
Yeah, and I guess like in the end, like, especially in just like the central southern Europe, it maybe the skills are transferable from one country to the next, or like somewhat so.
Yeah. Um, I think at this point Prussia is basic like for GeoGuess I think Prussia would just be like northern Poland and maybe like some of the German cities.
Yeah,
Uh,
maybe.
Honestly, I'm not
Uh,
even too sure at this point.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
at any rate, it seems like Prussia was the more difficult of the two to nail down.
Yeah. Um. Well, last up you've got Jack picking up a win against Connor, who did not play his seeds this week.
Yeah, pretty close game, but Connor was about 50,000 points away from a draw there, so.
Yeah. Yeah. Um. Yeah, he did actually do really well for that map, so I think even if Connor played, it would have been pretty hard.
Yeah, like that's about as many points as I would expect myself playing if I were playing a map of Uganda, so.
Yeah. I mean, Uganda is basically just Kampala and then whatever the city to the south is.
Yeah, Entebbe and then like a few parks.
Right. I keep forgetting about those.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, here is the table for the week. Jack moves up into the top spot on the table, but I think generally a lot less movement over here than we've seen in previous
Yeah,
divisions.
yeah, these scores seem a lot more like stable and linear than like other divisions we've seen, like Division 2 especially.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot more draws as well over here, which probably means, you know, a lot of the players are actually closer in skill level, um, even though there's a
Right.
very large uh, differential between points between players at the top and bottom.
Yeah, and I think it's like also a little bit interesting the distribution of like positive versus negative score differences. You got Hidikmi in 6th with a negative score difference, and you've got Ordboga in 13th with a positive score difference.
Yeah. Um. So yeah, I mean, score difference only comes into play after 25K. So that's fortunately for them, probably it's not going to play into their rankings, but it is sort of an interesting metric to look at to see how they sort of measure up against their fellow Division 4 participants.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, yeah. Here's the fixtures for week 6. We have Hidikmi going for Switzerland, um, and the opponent Edward is going for Sub-Saharan Africa.
Interesting.
Is
Which
Sub
really, yeah,
Is that basically just Africa minus Tunisia? Tunisia?
and like Egypt, I guess. Yeah.
I mean, Egypt does it have
There's
that
like a bit
much?
of like tracker coverage in Alexandria
Ah,
and Cairo, I think. You play the daily challenge a lot, you just get a million pyramid locations.
right. But yeah, clearly Edward is confident in sub-Saharan Africa, so um, yeah, I'm actually not sure which way this would go because Switzerland isn't Hidikmi's home field either, exactly.
Right, but I guess it's close enough that like it's closer to France than sub-Saharan Africa is to the UK.
Yeah.
Although there is a lot of English. Yeah, well,
Hmm.
we might need to see how this goes.
Yeah.
It's hard to call.
One of the matches to look out for. Uh, And next up, we've got Hugo on the pinpointable world going up against Paranoid Android with 5,000 roundabouts, of which,
Yeah.
yet again, they will get only 5.
Yeah, I've always wanted to play 5,000 roundabouts in one of these matchups, but I've never been brave enough to pick it.
Yeah. Uh, for some reason, I seem to keep missing it on the map list, but yeah. Next up, we've got Clemens going with Riga, and he's up against Olympics with Greater Tyrol, which I don't know how good of a pick that is. You know, especially
Oh,
against
how
an
come?
Austrian.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Right, that's the thing when you make picks, right? Like you got to keep other people, like you got to keep your opponents in mind, you know?
Yeah. Um, But yeah, I mean, Greater Tyrol does include like the Italian bits, so mm, hopefully they get more of that, and that should go in Bitlimbik's favor then.
Maybe, yeah.
Um, yeah. Next up, we've got one of the new competitors, Finn, who is taking the place of Connor. Um,
Right. Okay.
yeah, and his it's not actually his map of choice. I believe it is a random pick from when Connor missed the deadline, but it's La Paz in Bolivia. Uh, and Calamity
Yeah.
is also Bolivia,
Yeah.
so
Poor Finn, I guess, to
yeah,
have to enter into the competition with two Bolivia maps against the Bolivia specialist.
yep.
So,
Uh, yeah. I mean, Calamity is an obvious favorite here.
yeah. But who knows? We might see a surprise upset.
Oh yeah. I mean, we haven't seen Finn in this competition yet, so maybe he could pull off the upset.
Yeah, maybe Finn actually belongs in Division 1. Who knows?
Yeah, we'll see. It is also like the third. No, he's like the fifth Finn that we've gotten here, but
Fins of all
that's a
kinds.
whole other thing. We've got going. But yeah. Next up we've got Odboka going with Nordic slash Northern Europe, and Renata with Czech regions. Um, I think
Yep.
I think after how Renata did in Czechia last time, I might favor Odboka here.
Interesting. Yeah, no, I would see it though.
Yeah. Nordics is definitely going to play into Odboka's hands, so um, yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Yeah,
Uh,
but both of them, like both of these areas, do have like pretty good signage. Probably wouldn't see scores that are too low. Hopefully.
yeah. Um, yeah. Next up, we've got Michael on a still world. Need to check whether that's NMPD or non-moving. But yeah. And his opponent Jack is going for Shkodër in Albania. Uh,
Ooh,
I don't.
that's yeah. Albania is always fun, I think. Because like the signage isn't great, but the roads all look so interesting that if you can like find an interesting enough like road layout, it should be semi-findable on the map just by looking at how they look.
I,
Which is like the opposite of how you'd play a still world, I think.
yeah, and but you're actually so right. That is like basically how you play in Albania. It's not actually finding street names or anything. Just find an interesting road layout and run with it. Um, yeah, and finally we've got Seb Kiers going with a world of photospheres, and the one
Fun.
Peshtetli is in Kaunas in Lithuania.
Huh. Right, so neither of these seem particularly like home advantagey, but
Yeah,
both of these are pretty studyable, I think.
yeah, and I mean these last two matches are sort of the same sort of thing. You've got one urban map and then one just world map, non-moving or something. Just two
Yeah.
opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, interesting parallels. We'll see how it goes down.
Yeah. Uh, well, let's move on to Division 5A. Start off with Rafa picking up a win against GB. Um, really good scores on both maps. Not quite perfect scores, but GB just didn't do well on Mexican Islands, and that would be an easy win for Rafa.
Yeah, that's a pretty impressive blowout on Mexican islands. I wasn't even aware there were that many to choose from.
Yeah, I was wondering when I saw Mexican Islands on the list, like how many of them actually are there? Uh, yeah, I have
Yeah.
no idea.
Yeah,
Um,
but I guess as you learn from Uncommon World, no island is too small to potentially have coverage. So,
that's
that one
true.
might be one that you study a
Mhm.
bit, and GB might not have been able to put in the time.
Yeah. Next up, you've got Penguin, and Radox picking up draws. As you'd expect, both of them with wins on their own maps, but Penguin does get a perfect score on the Whistler River, uh, which was sort of a home advantage, I think.
I think so. Yeah, is that the same as the Vistula?
Yeah, I believe that Wisla is like the Polish name or something.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Um,
So yeah, absolutely home advantage there, I'd say.
uh, yeah. Now that I think about it, I can't remember where the Vistula is either. Uh,
Yeah, it goes
yeah,
through Warsaw, maybe.
yeah, yeah. Okay, it is the Vistula, and it goes through a fair bit of Poland. So yeah. Um, Next up, we've got the other Finn, picking up a draw against Flapper. Um,
This is
Wait.
incredibly impressive.
I just looked at the score. I'm just I'm just opening up the sheet on the side to check that I've actually got the scores in right because like I haven't missed like a fifth digit or something. But oh man,
Yeah, this is well, I can safely say that I feel like we've never seen anything quite like this in the Map Battle League so far.
oh yeah,
Making history here.
we sure haven't. Definitely the lowest scoring game, and you know, they just barely got past half of a.
Yeah, God, you can add all four of those scores together and it would still be less than like most individual scores in like single maps in this division.
Literally, as we'll see later, Neusel didn't do too well in Wales, and I think he still scored more than all of them combined. I mean,
Oh no.
I don't know whether that comes down to just bad maps or um uh
I
I don't know,
mean,
maybe
yeah,
not much
like
practice.
right. Again, like we were saying, right? Like a city in Albania, it's entirely possible to not be able to find a good road sign. I
Right.
totally sympathize. And Serbia can be really hit or miss. I think like whether
Mm-hmm.
it's about whether you find a I guess a sign to a city you recognize, or I guess about maybe reading Cyrillic or that kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't put it up to being able to read Cyrillic, given that Flapper is Russian,
True.
but but yeah, I mean, I know
Yeah,
Serbia.
that's why Flapper got 3 times Finn's score there.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, that's the only explanation, really. In fact, wait, hang on. Flapper is almost exactly three times Finn's score. Just three
Oh, that's
times
actually
plus
interesting.
one. Quick
Fun.
maths. But yeah,
Yeah.
th definitely one of the more interesting matches we've had on here.
Oh, for sure. I would love to go in those maps and like just see like the
Yeah.
horror that must be. Like
uh,
just like 5 Serbian farms or something.
I'd love to see if they have like recordings or something because I,
Oh, I'd love to watch.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know if they record or not, but yeah. Um, Next up we've got Lord Pepsi picking up a win against Druve. Um, yeah, they actually get a draw in on Civilization Alphabet X and
Yeah,
with like a non-perfect score.
that's incredibly interesting. Is Division 5A just like living in a simulation or something? Like,
It has to be. This is stuff you could not make up.
yeah. I mean, like those are two pretty high scores as well.
Yeah.
I guess yeah, like Civilization Alphabet X does seem like studyable. There can't be that
Mm-hmm.
many places that start with X that I don't know aren't in what like Taiwan or Mexico.
Yeah. I think that's about it. Like the third place would be just mainland China, but it doesn't have coverage. So
Yeah,
um yeah, I mean it's really interesting to see a non-perfect score die. So here we go. Lord Pepsi did get the win because he was faster there.
mm,
Uh, but yeah, I mean Division 5 is coming up with all the interesting matchups.
for sure, for sure.
Next up, we've got Neusel losing out to M. Wickham. Um, M. Wickham picked uh, Wales as his map, which I mean he didn't do too well on, but it's still a win,
Yeah,
nonetheless.
I wonder if it was random, but
Mm,
again, still clearly the right pick against Neusel.
yeah. Um, Next up, we've got Curtis who missed the deadlines, and Biquet, as a result, takes a win. Did get a perfect score on Curtis's map of choice, so maybe it would have been a win for him regardless.
Right, yeah. Like, clearly Biquet would have picked up points with that perfect score.
Yeah.
Bermuda being like a pretty fun but like also decently easy map, I think.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, as we've seen before, getting a perfect score guarantees you a bonus point at least.
Right, yeah,
So
so it's a shame Curtis couldn't make it. especially
Yeah.
if the chance was there for the perfect score.
hmm Um, and finally, we have Timon and Sausage Wipe picking up a draw. Um, Sausage Wipe does pick up a bonus point in Niche. But yeah, both of them getting wins on their opponent's maps. Again, something you don't see too often on here.
Yeah, it's happened a few times, but really
Yeah.
that's like pretty interesting.
hmm
Although
Um,
neither of these seem like a particular home map that either might specialize in. Who knows?
yeah. I'm guessing Sausage Wipe just thought Nish would give him the script advantage, but I'm
Mm.
pretty sure Timon knows Cyrillic, so maybe didn't play into its hand as well as we thought. But yeah, here are the tables as it turned out, and got the top five players all on 9 points, and then it's like all the way down to 10th. They're all 3 points apart.
Yeah, it's really cool how evenly matched like the top of this board is. So I guess like Division 2, like it really could go anywhere even just in the next few weeks. I'm sure we'll see a lot more like order rearrangement, especially since like of these 14 people, 13 of them did like change places over the course of the last week.
Yeah, Slapper is the only one who doesn't move, stays at the bottom. But actually, I think we're going to see a lot more movement, especially because there don't seem to be as many perfect scores um, around here. So, it does end up coming down to the score differential, which could, flip every week. I think Piquette's
Right,
pretty
yeah.
solid up there, but I mean, so is Radox.
Yeah, I think
Um,
it's a sign of a reasonably balanced division.
yeah, um, it's definitely made it a lot more competitive over here for those promotion spots. Um, and yeah, here are the fixtures for week 6. We have Radox on a remote world up against Truve, who has also gone for a world map, but this one is Geodetective World.
Ooh, yeah, that'll be an interesting one since, like, as we discussed earlier, Geodetective can be hard, I guess, if you're not sure what exactly you're looking for, and Remote World sounds rough.
Yeah, I know Radox is not good at pinpointing at all, so and I know Druve is. Uh, we play a lot of co-op together, so I mean he has to be good at pinpointing, and yeah, that might play in his favor on these world maps.
Interesting, yeah. Although, if if Radox is better at like landscape guessing than pinpointing, Remote World might just be the right pick in this situation.
That is true, yeah. We'll have to see how well Druve do in a remote world then. But yeah, honestly, no idea which way that one could go. Um, Next up we have Slapper versus GB. Um, Slapper going for Dobrich in Bulgaria, possibly going for the Cyrillic advantage there. Um, but yeah, and then GB is going for 5 open locations in Lithuania.
Yeah, both of these sound like pretty solid maps, that you could probably do well in.
Yeah, um, I'd say this one would end in a draw. That's my guess.
Yeah, I can see that happening.
Yeah. Um, Next up, you've got Rafa going with Russian Islands. I I know of exactly like two, but
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like other than what like Sakhalin and like whatever Arkhangelsk is on. Is there anything
yeah.
else? Is there something in Baikal or I don't know?
I don't think there's anything in Baikal. The only other one I know of is the like Diomede, which is like there's like the two islands, one's part of Alaska, but I mean they don't have
No way.
coverage.
Yeah. That might be an interesting map to try like learning.
Yeah. Um, I'm pretty sure it just come down to Arkhangelsk and um Sakhalin really. Uh, and then his opponent Lord Pepsi is in Skopje, which I mean uh I don't know how that would go. For a second, I thought Lord Pepsi was from North Macedonia, and then I realized I confused it with Montenegro.
Right, yeah. And I guess if you're from Montenegro, you might be going for like a language advantage there, but Skopje is, popular and touristy enough that there's a lot of like Latin script around as well, I think.
Yeah, and it is a fairly well gridded city as well, so it's not as hard as some other cities you might find in the area, which are just messes of roads.
Right, right.
Yeah. Next up, we've got Emmerich going for Denmark, and his opponent, um, fellow Finn. Actually, no, Finn isn't a Finn. He's just a Brit flying the Finnish flag.
Actually,
Yeah.
I was gonna say it's a Finnish derby, but I guess not.
No, I realized that as soon as I said it. But yeah, Finn is going for Florida Blanca in Colombia. Um, so, yeah, I mean, these are definitely sort of two ends of the spectrum. I wouldn't expect Florida Blanca to be very good with signage, really.
Right,
And
yeah.
Denmark usually is, so it's like two ends of the spectrum there.
Yeah, Denmark's great. I love Denmark.
Hmm. I would disagree with you for other reasons, but yeah. Um,
I say this because I won my match in Denmark in like week
oh.
3 or something.
Okay, yeah, that would do it. Um, Next up we have Penguin on Civilization Alphabet M, and his opponent Curtis McPeak is on the Middle East and North Africa. Uh, I believe there was a discussion about whether that includes Melilla and Ceuta, but I
Mm.
still don't know. Um, but yeah, I guess if you know how to read Arabic, that would automatically be a pretty good advantage.
Yeah, I guess there's lots of like good meta in I guess all of the countries that you could be getting in that set of countries as well.
yeah. I'm just wondering, does Israel get included in this or not?
I would imagine so. I think it's like pretty
It is Middle
uncontroversially a
East,
part of
I
the Middle
guess.
East. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay then. Not sure what to expect of Civilization Alphabet M. It's, I mean, right off the bat, I have this poster on my wall with like a bunch of cities, and I can already see like four big cities starting with M.
Yeah.
Like Mexico City and Monterrey and Miami and Montreal. So he's
Yeah.
that might
Moronto.
yeah, that might already be a um pretty tough map, especially if you get some of the bigger cities.
Yeah,
But
this could be an interesting one, It's definitely no X.
yeah. Um, I don't think we'll see another non 25K tie, but should still be interesting. Next up we've got Sausage White, going for one location per city slash town worldwide map. That's a mouthful. And Opponent Neusel going for Central Europe.
Right, yeah, so it's looking like Noisel's again trying to like luck into a home field advantage, I guess,
Hmm.
whereas like Sausage White might have a bit of a tougher time, although Russia does have a lot of cities and towns.
Yeah. And the thing is that I'm not gonna say the entire map name again, but given that it has only one location per every urban area, it uh it is something you could in theory sort of train for. Maybe if you do some practice round and happen to get one of those. Uh,
Yeah, it does feel like there would be a lot of possible places, so practicing might not be the best strategy here, maybe.
yeah.
But who knows?
Hmm.
We might get lucky.
Last up, we've got Biquet going for Limburg, uh,
Delicious.
uh, and Diamond is going for Country Borders this time.
Yeah, Country Borders is a fun map. I don't know. I like the gimmicky maps, like the
Hmm.
the what was it, the divisional world map or
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah, they're kind of fun because it really comes down to pinpointing because you're basically told, okay, these locations are along a river or they're on the border or something like that.
Right, yeah, it's inviting you to pinpoint.
Yeah. And if you really want to go for high scores for the weekly order, these will really help you out.
Yeah. And like I do think that in general world maps are probably like good choices if you want just a good weekly order spot because if you're in like the wrong part of the country but it's a world map, you're not going to lose too many points, but if
Yeah.
you're in the wrong part of the country and it's country map, you're done.
Yeah. Th that is something that also comes into you have the sort of opposite issue if you're all the way down on an urban map, like for a specific city.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah. Um, let's move on to Division 5B. Um, we start off with a French derby here. Latomp and Arga pick up draws on the opponent's map.
All right, another one of those interesting and probably the last one of this week.
Yeah. Yeah. It is the last one of the week. Um, but yeah. A hard world definitely was hard for Arga, but not so much for Latomp.
Yeah, but that's an impressive feat purely by the name of the map, clearly.
Yep. Next up we have Ankamako and Dakabaka picking up a draw. Um, Nothing too surprising here, except for Dakabaka's apparently really bad time in
Yeah,
Obidira.
that's a bit unfortunate, but most cities in Japan, I think especially the smaller ones, are pretty well gridded and have bad signage. So like that combination, I can totally see how that happened.
Yeah. Um, Next up we have Valentin Rebier and Dad City again a draw. As you'd expect, Dad City did really well with the South African cities, but
Very impressive.
was on the opposite end when it came to Tinfu.
Yeah, and Thimphu is like small but not like tiny, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's a lot of like twists and turns. It can be hard to get your bearings because the minimap doesn't have an elevation marker.
right. And it's it's also a very long city because it's along a valley. So,
Right.
it- um, r- unlike a city that's like sort of circular where like all of the locations are rather close by, you could be on opposite ends of the city, and that just does not bode well for your scores.
Yeah, that's rough.
Um, Next up we have Joguer picking up a win against Jeune. Um, it was actually a pretty decisive win on both maps there.
Yeah, honestly, like at least what 4,500 in each. That's a well around 4,500 in each. That's a
Hmm.
pretty good victory there, I would say. And like these maps, I guess, aren't the easiest. Like I guess the signage in Iberian Peninsula is not bad, but like Osh is tough.
Yeah, Osh isn't great. I think Kyrgyzstan is one of the countries that actually Calamity is pretty good at. So I think he would have liked to have that, but uh, I think he
Yeah, I
might
get
be the only one.
yeah, it's a good strategy, I guess, for like tournaments like this, just to like get good at the things that nobody wants.
Right. Um,
Which I guess is how Uncommon World became a thing, but yeah.
yeah. Um, yeah. Uh, Next, House Cops picks up a win against Bombadil. Um, they were okay. Another Division 5 matchup that's really interesting. Um,
Whoa.
yeah, you can see it. Bombadil missed out on the draw by 1 point.
Oh no, yeah, we've all been there, right? Like that's just, what a feeling to have
Yeah.
missed it by a point.
That's gonna suck. And I mean, even on an unusual world, they weren't very far off. They both had terrible games there, but um, you know,
Yeah, it's,
600.
it's close enough that, I'm sure Bombadil has like, like what might have been thoughts, if, a few different decisions are made, but I guess that's also all of us whenever, something unfortunate happens.
Yeah.
But those are really close.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's the kind of thing where if you moved your, it's a world map, so if you move your pointer marker slightly, you could have a um, slightly better score, and that could have put Bombadil over the top for a decent job, but it wasn't meant to be.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that's a shame.
yeah. Next we have Krivas picking up a win against Afi. Again, just about like 2,000 to 3,000 points on both maps. Uh,
So yeah, that's pretty close. And also, okay, hang on. I'm sure that this has been asked before by other people, but like, how are there two people representing Kiribati in the same division? Like,
yeah.
that's wild to me.
Um, I remember I noticed that at the beginning of the season, but I was so mad that the two Montenegrins didn't get put into the same division because they were sort of like added at the end to fill up spots. Uh,
Yeah, that's funny.
but yeah, we actually do have a lot of like I know Division 4 has all three Austrians.
Oh, actually, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember all of them. I think that this division also has both of the uh people who are actually representing Britain because
Oh, they're fake Brits.
no I mean like for example Finland Division
Oh,
4
I see. Yeah, 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 yeah.
uh
Got it.
for Finland, and then you've got 59th Soundbite for Scotland.
Yeah.
So yeah. Yeah, well, uh
Yeah, sorry to derail. Yeah. Well
no,
done, Kiribati.
it's okay. Yeah, and last up we've got Guala Wizard picking up a win against Wakelock. Both of them getting a perfect score in Wakefield, which um well, this is the first double perfect score we've seen in a while.
Yeah, that's
Um,
true. That's true. And I guess both being from English-speaking places,
yeah.
wouldn't have
Uh,
been the hardest.
yeah, and Wakefield isn't that big of a city, if I remember correctly. So, I mean, it's probably better to have Wakefield as a map instead of like London or Manchester or one of
True.
the
Yeah.
cities, you know.
Yeah.
Well, here are the standings as they've turned out. Guala Wizard and Kiribati. I have not updated um the last week's results, but yeah, Guala Wizard and Kiribati with their wins cement their positions at the top. But generally, not a lot of movement on these tables.
Yeah, and that's interesting in that like you can see that this is a pretty unique division that you can see like there is a clear like top two.
Yeah,
Like a lot of other divisions, it's still super, super close at the top in the middle. And here it's very close in the middle with like third place through 11th place only being 2 points apart. But like first and second are really pulling ahead.
yeah, and it could end up becoming just a battle for that one direct promotion spot.
Yeah. And it'll be a pretty tightly fought battle too by the number of blue spaces.
Hmm. Uh, yeah. Well, as for week 6, we start off with Bombadil against Valiant and Rebia. Um, Bombadil's going for African cities with a population over 1 million, and Valiant and Rebia is going for a streaking world.
I really hope a streaking world isn't what I think it is.
Yeah, I, I'm hoping it's just something like country streaks or something. It's supposed to help you with that.
Yeah,
But
fingers crossed.
but yeah, African cities with a population over 1 million. That would what would that be like? Johannesburg
Well, there's
and
probably quite a few. Africa's pretty densely populated.
Lagos.
Definitely Nairobi, definitely Kampala, definitely Lagos,
Does
probably Dakar.
Kampala have over 1 million people? That doesn't. I don't know.
Let's
I'm
find out.
I'm literally just
It
searching
has
this
one
up.
and a half million, it looks like.
Jeez. Okay. Yeah. I feel like at this point I sort of uh badly underestimate how many people live in a bunch of cities. Going from a city of like I used to live in a city of 25 million people, and now I live in one with like just over, just under 1 million. So
Yeah, pretty big difference.
my scale's all out of whack. Um, yeah. Next up we've got Wakelock going for South Chungcheong. I'm
Oh
definitely
no.
butchering that.
Yeah, good luck. I don't know what.
But yeah, in South Korea, and Jenner is going for Bucaramanga in Colombia. Uh, we had another Colombia map, but I don't think that was in this division.
Yeah, I mean, Bucaramanga doesn't sound easy, but like South Korea, man, that localized Google map is just rough to deal with.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't hate it as much anymore. It's
Oh,
um, I mean, the good thing about South Korea is that if you know the region you're in, it's actually pretty easy because all the street signs basically tell you what town or region you're in, and
yeah, I guess it is localized.
yeah, since you have the province, you're half your job's done for you.
True. Yeah.
But yeah, I think Bucaramanga will end up becoming the decider here.
I can see that. Yeah.
Next up, we've got Guala Wizard going from Macau up against the top with Iceland. And I haven't played Macau in a long time, but I am sorry for the two of them because it's just glitchy as hell.
Yeah. Yeah, I've definitely been there before as well. Although maybe given the Guilo part of the Guilo Wizard's name, maybe there's a bit of an advantage there that um over the top potentially. Iceland's
Mm,
also pretty fun though, as long as you can uh find footage that isn't broken.
yeah. Um, Next up, we've got Holzkopf with 5 urban locations in Laos. And Angkor
Ooh,
Angkor is on Malaysian islands. So,
yeah, it's looking bad for Holtzkopf, I think.
yeah.
Like two Southeast Asian locations and like Holtzkopf's own map is um pretty tough,
Yeah.
to say the
Uh,
least.
yeah, I definitely favor Angkor on this, but oh my goodness, I don't even know what you think. Like, I'm sorry, Holzkopf, you're having to go through this.
Yeah, fingers crossed for a,
Hmm.
a better map next week.
Yeah.
But yeah, Ankumako I think lucked out with these picks.
Yeah. I think uh, he does manage to pick up Malaysian maps whenever they show up because not many people like to go for those.
Right, yeah. And I guess that's like, part of the benefit of like, having a country that is somewhat underrepresented. Like,
Yeah.
being from the US, like all the US maps get snatched up like that, and I've like never gotten a good one.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, Ankumako and Malaysia, that's a pretty tight strat.
Yeah.
Um, I bet Ankumako's hoping for fewer Malaysians to join, or maybe is hoping for
Hmm.
more for the representation. But yeah,
Yeah. Well, next up we have Kiribati going for Uppsala in Sweden. I might have mispronounced that. Um, but yeah, and his opponent Arga is going for capitals of the world.
yeah, seems like a pretty solid map.
Hmm.
Where is Kiribati actually from? Is Kiribati
Sweden.
from Sweden? Okay, so yeah, there's the home field advantage.
Yep. Uh, it would be pretty funny if Kiribati was actually from Kiribati, but that was not meant to be.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well. Next up we have Afi going for Jordan, and Dakapaka's opponent is going for Europe.
interesting. So Europe is kind of a home map for both of them, and Jordan being neither of
Hmm.
them.
Yeah. Not sure which way that could go. Although if Jordan with Afi don't pick, it could definitely um sort of be big if he's pretty
Yeah,
confident of it.
that could really decide things. Although the seed in Europe probably matters quite a bit as well.
Yeah. If you don't get your home country, then you don't have as much of an advantage.
Yeah, and there is more coverage in France than Montenegro.
Yep. Um, Maybe Afi had the benefit here. Um, but as we see, next up, Choker actually has France for his map.
Yeah.
Um, so definite home field advantage here. And we have Dad City going for Vavunia in Sri Lanka, which I've never heard of that town, so I'm just gonna search it
Neither have
up.
I. Yeah. How big is it? What's its population like?
Population of 75,000.
Oh boy, so that's gonna be a pretty small map, you know.
Except it seems
Uh,
to be a pretty large city, actually. Hang on.
maybe it's not super densely populated.
Maybe? Uh, uh, I just saw like the population on the map, so I'm just opening up like Wikipedia. Maybe it
Yeah.
gives me like a metro population.
Yeah. In any case, hopefully Jogar and Daj City are able to find some good signage in Vavunia.
Yeah,
Um, especially Daj City because of Jogar's definite home advantage in France there.
for sure.
France is so hard to break into for like a non-French person. At
Yeah.
least it was for me and still is.
The main problem is the D roads because they just don't have. They repeat for every department, and
Exactly, yeah. And a lot of it is knowing how to interpret the names of cities,
hmm,
like Sur Seine and whatever.
yeah.
Um,
Uh,
some people, yeah,
uh, yeah. France is. horrible if you're not from France, I'd say.
Maybe that's why there's so many French people in these tournaments.
Yeah. Um, I'm sure they wish there were more French maps up on offer, at least as many as there are American maps.
Yeah, true, true. Yeah, I'm sure everyone's fighting for the French maps.
Yeah. And I mean, Joger got his hands on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's gonna do it uh, for this week of the Map Battle League. Lunacy, thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah, no, Carp, thank you so much for having me. I've had a blast. It's been super fun.
Yeah. For all of you viewers out there, stay tuned for week 6. And yeah, we'll be back for that. Take care.